Let's take a look at overtime example. So we'll do a file, new project, and I'll call this example payroll calculation. And click OK. Okay, so I'm going to have a label, a text box. That's what they're putting the number of hours they worked. Also need a label and a text box for the their pay, how much they make per hour. And let's go ahead and rearrange that first. Okay, I'm going to do a rectangular select on those. Come over here for the font. I'm going to have it be 20 again. I'd like these pinned. Pinned means it stays on the screen. But if you don't like it to stay on the screen and you use up your screen real estate, then click this pin button and then it'll auto hide. And when you put your mouse over it, then you'll see it highlight whichever one. And if you click, then you can choose whatever. And then when you click outside of that, it hides it again. So myself, again, I like to have those pinned. And then if I need more space, I just move this over to handle that. Okay. I'll click outside of that and click my first one. And I will change its text to hours worked. And this one to pay rate. Okay, so we have a button to calculate. We're also going to have a label down here for the two labels, and those are going to be for the amount earned. Okay, I'm going to highlight all those, change them to their font. Change them to 20. I'm also going to have, over here you see one called a radio button. If I double click that, and then double click another radio button, now let's talk about the way the radio button works, just generally. And then we're going to see with the properties some different options we can do to control what it's doing. And lots of different options here. Okay, let's run this. Put in our hours there, pay rate. When I click this button, see how it's selected? Now if I click this button, see how the selection goes off of that. That's how a radio button works. Well, if I highlight those and change the font of them, change it to 20. And this will be how I calculate overtime. So let me change the text on the first one, say time and a half. And the second one, I'll have it say double time. That'd be like for holidays, maybe. Okay, well, I'm gonna do a little bit of rearranging here, and I probably want a label on this to indicate overtime options. Now there's containers over here, and you can have a panel group box, split container, lots of different options. We'll see. We'll see many of these we go throughout. I want to choose a group box. Assuming I can move it. Oh, there it is. Blind. Okay, now I'm going to take these two, and I'll do a rectangular select, and I'll cut. And I'll choose my group box and right click in it and choose paste. Resize that. Move these a little bit. Now, the nice part about group box is that now when I move this, it'll move those items wherever I want to put them. And let me do a rectangular select, move these down. I wasn't going to put a label on these to indicate what in the world they represented, but then I thought, well, I could put them in a group box. And I'll call this overtime options. Now, I'm not sure if I ever actually tried to change the font on that. In theory, you should be able to. So let me change that if I can. Probably smaller than 20, like maybe 14. Yeah. So overtime options. You can also do some of your other standard items on that. So there's a back color. Do the drop down there and choose custom, and let me make it that color. That way I can really see what in the world this represents. Rectangular select within there still works. Okay. Move those down. Now I said we're going to look at some of the options associated with radio buttons. If I choose this first one, looking for the interesting ones. Appearance, auto check, and it tells you if you click auto check, cause the radio button to automatically change state when clicked. Auto ellipse, auto size, back color. You notice the back color, same as the grouping box we did. Font, not a whole lot exciting right there. Tab index, tab stops, yes, 9. This one's should be 10 if I had to guess. Let's see, image index, lock, margins, visible. You can have visible. So you'll find that these properties we've been using on other controls work on these also. See checked. So that says false. Let's say I want it to be time and a half to begin with. That's the most common one. Come over here, change this to true, and now that's selected. So now if I run this, if I choose that down here, see, it works the same way, just this one was selected to begin with. Because you don't want it ever left blank. Although we're not going to use it, let me come over and put a radio button over here. And now let's run this. See, I select this. And if I come over here and select this, it does not unselect this. When you put these into a grouping, whatever that might be, then these are tied together. So these right here are tied, and it's not related to any radio button outside of that. Okay, so let's delete this. Resize it. Let's do some naming. Actually, I got some more text to change. This one will say calculate. Resize it so it fits. This one will be pay amount. And this one I'm just going to make invisible to begin with. So take the visible property, set it to false. And let me move those down a little bit. There we go. Calculate. Okay. Resize or change that a little bit. Click my form one time and change its text to be payroll. Okay, that doesn't look too bad then. Now let's name some of the components we're going to use. So for this one, I'm going to give that a name of TB underscore hours. This one, I'm going to name it TB underscore pay rate. Now this radio button, I'll call it RB time and a half. No, it's underscores for where I'd normally put spaces. And this one I'll name RB double time. And this one I'll name label pay amount. LB pay amount. Now I'm going to program the button clicks. So let me click the button one time, choose lightning bolt. And remember, you can come over here to the click and you double click over here. Now taking the same place. Okay, so we're going to have bring hours worked and pay rate. So we'll declare double hours and pay rate and pay amount. So hours is going to equal to double dot parse, and it'll be TB underscore hours dot text. That'll convert it. And then our pay rate is going to equal to double dot parse TB underscore pay rate dot text. You can see how proper naming your variables makes your programming a lot easier. And our pay would normally be the two multiplied together, but we have to see if there's any overtime. So I need an overtime variable. So I'm going to come over here. Overtime. Overtime is going to equal to 40 minus and my hours. This is assuming overtime is the amount of hours over 40 hours. Imagine if you have 50 hours. Well, 40 minus 50 means negative 10 hours. Well, that isn't what I want. So I actually want hours minus 40. See, I was thinking number of hours over 40, but it wasn't until I did a simple example in my head that it clicked how that should be set up. Okay, now if they only work 30 hours, well, 30 minus 40 means I got negative 10 hours overtime. That doesn't make any sense. But I'm going to check then. If overtime is less than 0, then I'm going to just simply say overtime is equal to 0. Okay. Now, depending upon whether they selected time and a half or double time, I'm going to calculate it differently. So I'm going to say if RB time and a half is equal or is dot select checked. Let me try to think which one it is. Checked equals true. Then my pay rate, our pay, is going to equal to, and you're going to have your hours just like normal. So you'd have your hours times pay rate. I have to think about this myself. Plus, and then your overtime times 1.5 times your pay rate. Now notice I got a red squiggly line underneath the if statement. I'll talk about that in a minute. But if that isn't true, if that one isn't checked, then I could do another if statement here. Else if RB double time dot checked equals true, and pay is going to equal to your hours times your pay rate. That's your normal hours you work, plus overtime times 2, because I'm beginning to pay double time, times pay rate. Now the checked property. This is a Boolean. And what a Boolean means is that if you, well, I should have an equals here. There. A Boolean means that it's either true or false. So instead of checking to see if it's equal or true, you can come up here and just delete that, and that says the same thing as these lines. So if RB time and a half checked, and the implication is that you're checking to see if it's true, then it'll do this code. Same down here. I don't have to have the true. I get rid of that. Now, some people like to put the true there, some don't. That's entirely up to you. If you think it's readable enough to understand where you don't need to put the true, don't worry about it. Used to be you had to, way back in dark ages when I started programming, you had to be really careful about usage of variables and extra lines of code put in, because system resources were they were very bare minimum. So you had very little to work with. Well, when you got a huge amount of memory like we have now, 12 gig, 16 gig, it really doesn't matter how inefficient you are in a lot of cases. Now, when you get some intense applications in terms of mathematics, or maybe you're going through 5 million records, well, then your performance will have an issue, and you have to be more careful on that. Okay, now I think this is going to work. But let's see, because I'm probably wrong. Of course, I guess I got to write my pay out to the screen now. LB pay amount dot text is equal to pay dot toString. Okay, so let's run this. Obviously not. Say no there. Use of unassigned local variable pay. It's because these are both embedded in the if statement, and it's not sure that it'll actually be assigned value. Well, that's easy. You can come up here and say, okay, pay is equal to 0. And then you can run it. And you're sitting there saying, well, yeah, but we know it's going to do these. Yeah, but the program doesn't know it. So that's its way of checking to make sure everything's kosher. Okay, so I got 40 hours at $5. Click calculate, and I don't make that visible. How many times am I going to mess that up? Let's see. LB pay amount dot visible equals true. Again, that's a Boolean. It's either true or false. 40 times 5. $200. Okay, that's what I'd expect. Let's make sure that, if it's less, let's say it's 20 hours. That should give us 100. It does. Now let's go 50. And $5. Okay, now let's think about this. Time and a half is selected. So the first 40 hours will be at $5. So that's 200. And then the others will be time and a half, which will be at $750. What is this going to be? So $40 or 40 hours at $5, that's 200. And then we'll have the other 10 hours, which are overtime, at time and a half, which should be at $750. And that should give us $75. So we should get $275. Yeah, $325. That's not promising, unless I did my calculation wrong here. Okay, let me think. 40 at $5 is 200. Then we have the extra $10 at time and a half, which should be $7.50. Yeah, $75. So it'll be $2.75. So I got a problem, don't I? So let's I'm using 50 and 5 for my testing. Okay, so let's come over here. I'm gonna do my debugging. So I come over here and I'll start about right here. Okay, so let's run this. I'll put in 50 here and was it 5? Time and a half, click calculate. Okay, well, let's see. Hours is 50. Pay rate is 5. Overtime is 10. That all looks good. Pay is 0. If overtime is less than 0, it's not. Let me do F11. Down to here. Checking to see if it's true, which it is. Now I'm ready to do this line of code here. Pay rate is 5 times 1.5 times overtime. I don't want my overtime times 1.5. I want my pay rate times that. I think that's where the issue is. Because 1.5 would increase my overtime hours, and that's not what that says. When you say time and a half, you're saying you're applying that to your pay rate. So in this case, I need to put parentheses around that. The assumption, if that's true, then I need to put parentheses around this. Okay, let's run that and see now. Okay, so I got 50 and 5 here. And click that. Still not right. 50 and okay, so let's come down here. I'll put my breakpoint back in. Run that. 50 and 5. And click calculate. I'll do an F11. Get down to okay, see it's running the right line of code. Then I finish running that and oh, notice how it says hours. I put my mouse over that, said hours is 50. That's not what we want. We want 40 times pay rate. If there is overtime. Okay, so I've obviously got some bad code here. Now you can kind of see how the debugging really helps you to figure that out. You know, it seemed perfectly logical what I put here, but it isn't. So what I need to do is if I actually have overtime, then I want to set hours to 40. So I got else hours is equal to 40. Let me think this through now. Is less than or equal to 0. Okay. So if I do have any overtime, that means I went over 40 hours. And so hours is equal to 40, and then it's not exactly what I want. This is an interesting one. I was trying to get by it without putting another if statement in there, but let me do that. If hours is less than or equal to 40, then I'm going to say pay is equal to hours times pay rate. Else, then I'll calculate overtime. But in doing that, if there's overtime, then the hours automatically be 40 here and here. Now there's probably some slick way I could have done that with manipulating the hours up here, but I wanted to put something I knew would work without doing much thinking on it. So let me put 20 in here, put 5. Definitely not overtime. It's 100. Okay, that's working. Let's put 40 in. Should give us 200. That's working. Now if I put 50 in, let's see if I fix the problem. 275. And that's what we said we should have. So that's working. Let's check double time. If I choose double time, instead of making $7.50, the person will make $10 per hour. So this would be 100, and that would be 300 total. So if I click that, it calculates that. Okay, so that's working like I would expect. Make sure you have an example you can test. And try to check all the cases. When you got less than 40, when you got 40, when you got 50. You know, that covers all the different cases. Now, let's say we want to put some error checking in this so they can't enter in like 0 hours worked, or they can't enter in over a certain amount. So let's come up here, and I'm going to declare another variable called Boolean. Yeah, I'm not sure if it should be bool or boolean. Let's try boolean. Okay. Error equals false. Now, up there, you can actually declare the variable and assign it a value. So then here, I'm going to say, I'm bringing my hours. I'll bring in my pay rate. And before I do my calculation, I'm going to do some checking here. So check for invalid hours. So I'm going to say if hours is less than 0, my curly bracket, and I'll say message box dot show cannot have negative hours. Okay, cannot have negative hours. And then my error, I'm going to set to true. Now sometimes error is like a reserved word you cannot use. Okay. And down here, I only want to do the calculation if there's no errors. So down here I'm going to do an if error is equal to true or equals false. That means there's no error. Then I'll do my beginning curly brackets. And I'll come down here and I'll put a closing curly brackets. Now notice when I put the closing curly brackets, it automatically indents all of those. So this is all my line of code that goes along if there's no error. Let's run that and just check it. So if I put a -3 here, and pay rate of $100 an hour. Click that, says cannot have negative hours, and then brings you back here. Maybe you want to set focus to this blank, where the error was. So TB hours dot focus or set focus. Focus is equal probably true if I had to guess. Sets input focus to control. Can I assign to okay. Some things are a property, some things are a method you call. Method being like an action. Okay, so if I run this, if I put -3 here, and then put 5 here and click calculate, can I have negative hours, and it puts the focus back there. Now there's different ways you can even do it. You can change the color of it so they can see where the error is. So you got TB hours dot what is it, BG color or color? Back color equals to red. See if that works. Convert type to color. Okay, so I'm going to do color dot red. Now red is no longer a string, and color is you see it says structure, but you can think of it as a component set up to contain all the colors. So now if I run this, I'll put -3 here and 40 here. Cannot have negative hours, and sets that as red. Now the problem with this is it'll stay red even after I change it. So I go out there, it's still red. So you might want to program when you leave that box to change its color. So here, I got that selected. Instead of double clicking it, I come over to my lightning bolt, and I'm looking for something like it says on leave, or let's see what leave says. Occurs when the control is no longer the active control. So if I double click that, then I can choose TB hours dot back color is equal to color dot white. Now if I run this, put -3 in here, 40, and click calculate. It says cannot have negative hours, and puts it here. And if I change it now, put like 5 and leave that, then the red's no longer on there. There's even a way where you can select the entire text in there, so when you start typing, it overwrites what's there. To be honest, I don't remember the syntax for that. Now I didn't like how it popped up the message box before I changed the color, so maybe this changing the color and so forth, I want to do at the very beginning. So I cut that, come up here, and do a paste. And now let's run it. Okay, so put -3 in, and put 40 for $40 per hour. Click calculate, and then when it pops up the message box, you can see what's highlighted. And put a 5 here. Click calculate. Like that. You could even program it when it leaves the box to check to see if it input an appropriate value. So you don't have to do it all within the button. But that's up to you. Okay, now that's that condition. Now you could have that another else off this if you wanted to. I don't think I got those lined up quite right. Let me press delete. I think that's right. Or you could have it in a separate if statement. If hours is greater than 100, then I'm going to say TB hours dot back color is equal to color dot red. Message box dot show cannot have more than 100 hours, and I'll say error is equal to true, and TB underscore hours dot focus. Okay, so if I run this and I put in 122 here, and I put $5 per hour, click calculate, cannot have more than 100 hours. So I'll come back up here, change it to 100 hours, click calculate, and see it calculates it. Now we could also do the same thing with pay rate. So there's different error conditions you can check for here. Check for invalid pay. Obviously you don't want to pay somebody a negative amount, so you can have the same code here. If pay rate is less than 0, then you could say TB pay rate dot back color is equal to color red, and you could say message box dot show cannot have negative pay. Set our error is equal to true, and we'll set focus back to pay rate. Now we want to program, since this is going to be red, when we leave pay rate, then we want it set it back to the color it should be. So I come over here, click your lightning bolt if it isn't already selected, and I think we programmed leave. So let me double click that. And here I'll say TB pay rate dot back color is equal to color dot white. Now if I run that, so if I put in 40 hours, I worked -2 hours, or -$2 per hour. It calculates. See, this cannot have negative pay. Puts focus there. Change that to 5, and I'll leave, and it sets it back there. So that's shows you how you can use a Boolean to check that. Now, I said down here if error is equal to false, it means everything's okay, and we can go ahead and just calculate that. So if we have some kind of error condition that happens, it doesn't run this code at all and just sits there waiting for them to make changes. But that's an example of using a Boolean. Now you could also simply check that if it's something in a certain range. Less than 0 or greater than 100. Now the OR would be where you put 2 pipe symbols, or hours is greater than 100. Then you could say invalid pay or invalid hours, and leave it up to them to figure out what they did wrong. Now that's a little bit less user friendly, but it simplifies programming. Okay, so if it's less than 0 or greater than 100, then we've got a problem. Okay, so if I come up here, put -2 and $3 per hour, invalid hours. I spelled invalid wrong. But if I put in like a valid, like 66 hours, and click calculate, then it's working. Where's invalid? Let me correct that before we finish this video. There we go. And that's different ways you can do error checking with if statements, and using even your connectors and or.